So tonight, our topic is going to be how to get noticed by college coaches. And what was nice is I saw a lot of younger people have already signed into this webinar, and that's terrific. Um, First off, what I would like to do is introduce myself. And many of you, I could see who's already on the webinar, and I know a lot of you through lessons, through events, which is terrific. We're a full house tonight. We have 150 people signed up for this. But for those of you who don't know me, and the reason I like to start with this is, whenever somebody would speak to a topic, whether it was in college, whether it was listening to a seminar, I always wanted to know their credentials because you know what? That's credibility. I always sat there, I'm very skeptical. Why should I listen to you? Why should I sit here and take your advice? What do you have behind it? What are your qualifications? And sadly, in this recruiting process, you have a lot of well-meaning people, like a dad whose daughter was recruited. I'm not saying he can't give you some information, but he might be able to give you just information based on his experience. Now, what I've done over the years, I coached Division I softball at Florida International University for 10 years. We went to regionals. We were in the top 25. I was on regional ranking committees, Coach of the Year awards. But I think what's unique is I've also coached at the Division II level up here in the Northeast. I have done things from, I work now with USA Elite Training, but I've worked with travel teams, with a team called Gold Coast Hurricanes out of Florida, as well as I started an organization up in New York called the Long Island Chargers. That was originally my team. So, I mean, I've got this experience not only from, obviously I run a recruiting company now, but it's that ability to look at it not just from, I can tell you what college coaches think. I can tell you what travel coaches, can do. So I've got a different varying viewpoint of this than most people. Now, somebody brought this question up prior to the webinar, and it is very, very important. When does recruiting start? And I had mentioned before the webinar started that it's not unusual to hear. Now you see here in this slide, I say 9th or 10th. I'm hearing stories of 8th graders verbally committing to colleges. Do I think that is right? I can't tell you that. It might be the right thing for that kid. I don't know, which that's going to be one of the big topics we talk about tonight is how personal this recruiting process is and how we really have to look at each kid individually, which is why I hope tonight we don't just have players on this webinar, but we have the parents. Parents, think of it this way. When your kid came home with her first homework assignment, did you sit there and go, hey, good luck on that? No, you didn't. What'd you do with that first homework? You sat with them, you let them try it themselves, and then when you saw them stumbling or questioning, you helped them. And that was just the first homework assignment. We're talking about college here. We're talking about a 6-figure investment in your child's future. So this is a decision, this is a process that is a family process. It's something that you have to help parent them through. So the truth is recruiting is happening earlier and earlier. The 14 and under level is where a lot of these top level Division I coaches are already looking at players because there's this big rule of thumb as a college coach. The first coach to show the love, meaning be the first person to start recruiting them, has a distinct edge in the recruiting process. That's a fact. So coaches are always trying to be the first. So they throw out a big net to a lot of players to be the first one. So it is true that at the top level of Division I, you're hearing kids verbally commit earlier and earlier. Do I think it's right? Again, I can't tell you that. It depends on the kid. And do all coaches do it? The answer to that is no. Especially, when you're looking at academic schools like Harvard and Yale, they're not looking until the junior year because they have to see if you have the grades. Division III, definitely not. Junior colleges, NAIAs, they are waiting to see where these kids are in the junior and senior year before they recruit them. So not every school does. And the question has to be, do I need to think about this for my daughter? And that's where tonight it's about education in the recruiting process, not for just the player, but for the family to start asking the right questions. So, not only when does recruiting start, but how do we do this recruiting process? How do we get noticed by these college coaches? So we work with some of the bigger tournaments in Texas with elite showcases, and it's not unusual for them to get 160 teams at a showcase. We're not even talking about a national tournament here. We're talking about a showcase. So that's over 2,000 players, and they get a huge number of college coaches at that tournament. The question is, the coach might be at that tournament, but are they at your game? Are they at the game when your daughter is there playing and doing something good? So not only do we need to look at this process, but we need to say, we need to get the college coaches out to see the girls at the tournament, but we need to have them come and see our kid. And how do we get her to stand out from the crowd of over 2,000 kids at a big showcase tournament? A lot of times, and this really kind of crystallizes it in one term, and that is, I see oftentimes too many parents treat it like their kid is trying to be discovered at one of these showcase tournaments. And that's what I call the biggest mistake, is showing up at these showcase tournaments. Now, we run another one up here in the Northeast. Many of you, I can see, are with USA Elite Training, and we run a big showcase in July up in Connecticut with 80 teams. And that's a lot of teams, and it's at multiple parks, and you can't just show up and hope to get seen by college coaches. There will be a lot of coaches at that tournament, but it doesn't mean they're at your game. So you don't want to treat it like you're trying to be discovered. You don't want to hope that a college coach comes to your game while your daughter's at the plate and gets a hit. How many times have we been at a game and our kid plays the outfield and she spent an entire game and never got a ball hit to her? How many times do we play in these time limit games where our kid gets 2 at bats, she gets walked, and she gets hit by a pitch? The coach could have been there, but your kid didn't do anything. And I remember when I was a college coach, I went to a lot of games, and unless I was expressly there to see a kid, or a kid did something spectacular to catch my attention, I didn't even remember that kid. So you know what? What we want to do is, we don't want to leave such an important piece to chance. We want to make sure, and this is the word we want to talk about, being proactive. And it's a buzzword, but I'm going to really discuss what that means tonight. So, here's a reality I want to talk to you about. So this kind of brings it home. There are full softball scholarships are few and far between. Less than 1% get a full softball scholarship. So, that is a rarity. And as we said, recruiting's happening earlier and earlier. And with the advent of email, coaches are getting thousands. It used to be hundreds. Now it's thousands of communications. So there's a big sea of information coming to these coaches. You want to look at it from their perspective to get your daughter to stand out from the crowd. So you buy one of these recruiting services, and I have a recruiting service in Fastpitch Online Showcase, but we're different. You buy those profiles where you feel like you spend $1,000 at one of these services and they send stuff out for you. Can I tell you, in 10 years at Division I threw every single one of them out, either in the actual garbage can or deleted it in my trash. So those $1,000 services that say they'll do it for you, you are not getting your money's worth. I am telling you, there is no way around you being proactive and you finding out what the best fit is for your daughter and really taking this by the neck and taking it and making it your own and going forward and owning this process. So that word, be proactive, it's a great buzzword, but what does it mean? It means having a plan. And being proactive means, number one, those of you who are in business, whether it be, you have your own business or maybe you work in marketing or advertising, you need to think of it as a marketing campaign of selling your daughter to a school. So there's advertising, there's putting her in a good light, it's getting her name in front of the college coaches and getting her noticed. So first off, we need to create a profile of the schools we want our daughter to look at. And she has got to be involved in this process, obviously, but you have to help parent her through this. So we're going to create a profile of the ideal school that she's interested in. Now, what's really tough is, I'm telling you, recruiting's happening earlier and earlier, and I'm asking you to help an 8th grader create a college profile. What you're going to have to understand is that profile might change. In the 8th grade, she might want to be a vet. In the 9th grade, she might want to be, a computer programmer. In 10th grade, now she's decided she wants to be a fashion designer. It's going to be a fluid process because your daughter is growing up and learning about herself. But we have to start somewhere. But there's a lot of things that we can talk about. remember, and this is something I always say, it is never your travel ball coach's responsibility to get your kid recruited. Your travel ball coach is there to give you a team that's coordinated, that plays well on the field. And you know what? Their full-time job is not to get your daughter recruited. Your job is as a parent to help your daughter through this process. So you need to start asking yourself some questions. As I say, take the headphones off while you're in the car and talk about it. What kind of school do you think she'd be interested in? Big school, small school? You know her. And how do we find out what kind of school? Here are some questions you need to ask. Finding the right fit. Stop trying to chase coaches, and you are going to figure out what you want, create that list. And that list, I generally say 20 schools. It's very hard to personally communicate with more than 20 schools, because when you communicate with them, you do not want to make that dear coach and send it out to 100 people. It gets deleted. So you have to personally communicate with coaches. So we need to figure out our daughter's profile. And academically, what kind of student is she? Financially, and this is such a big thing. Parents, you have to be honest with your daughter about how much money there is for her for college, because that is going to be a huge decision maker in the process. Time commitment to softball. And you see, I really never said talent in any of this. Obviously, you have to be a talented softball player, but it's not just about talent. You've got, if you want to play at University of Florida, University of Texas, or Oklahoma, you can't have a girl who has to be motivated to practice. She might have great talent, but if she needs motivation, she's not going to cut it at those programs. She's just not. You know, if you want to play at University of Florida, you got to be the kid who can't wait to go out there and take swings, who can't wait to get to the weight room, who's doing extra stuff over and above practice, because that's what they're expecting. So talent is a piece of it, but commitment to it and willingness to work is important, if not more important. Location. You know, does your daughter want to step out of her comfort zone and go far away? How far away? A drive? A plane ride? And for those of us who are like Florida, going far away into cold weather is a huge adjustment for a girl who's used to playing softball in warm weather. This winter has been brutal up here in the Northeast. I mean, we have kids who've gone on to University of Maine and these Northeast schools. It's been a brutal environment to play softball up here in the Northeast. Does she want that? The size of the school. Is she going to be better off at a big environment or a small environment? And then the coach. You know what? 4 years is the career, and then that's it. What kind of coach is she going to enjoy playing for? You have to do your research on this. Well, how do we do our research? How do you find schools that fit this profile? Number one, watch college softball on TV. Go to college softball games. Go to ones in your area. Maybe make a trip. I always say one of the best experiences when I was coaching, play a game at University of Florida, especially go when you see an SEC contest. It is one of the craziest, best softball environments in the world. I had the pleasure of playing at the University of Arizona. One of the greatest experiences to play at the University of Arizona, passionate fans. Another one of the best places to play in the country is Louisiana Lafayette. That is one of the best environments to play college softball because of how crazy the fans are about the game. So go to games, maybe make a trip to one of these games to see, because she's got to understand the difference between playing at University of Florida and what that's entailed, and then going to a local school like maybe a D2 or D3, and the difference, because it is a huge difference. I remember playing at Division II at CW Post. We had wooden bleachers. I mean, it's a huge difference to be doing that and then playing at University of Florida with a packed house. Visit different schools. You spend all this time in the summer traveling to tournaments outside the area. Do you stop at the local college? Do you call the coach ahead of time and say, hey, coach, we're going to be at this tournament. We want to come and see your school. Would you mind meeting with my team? Go to college camps. Go to college camps to meet the coaches, to meet the players, to learn about the environment. These are great ways for your eighth grader to start learning what college is all about. It's the different types of experiences, and then ask her what she likes. So doing your research, and then one of the great aspects of doing the research, and I'm just touching on these ideas. This is such a huge topic. We are not going to cover everything in a half an hour tonight. But one of the things, and many of you are FPOS Gold members, and you do our events where you get the Gold membership as part of it. what makes Fastpitch Online Showcase different is education. And we have a great online class, which all of our gold members get access to. And what's great about an online class is you can do it at your own pace. It's called the Roadmap to College Recruiting Success. And it talks about all of these questions in depth about what you guys need to talk about. When you go on a visit, what do you ask a coach? What's appropriate? What's not appropriate? So this online class, for those of you who are gold members, it's a must. You have to go because I'm not going to be able to cover everything in 30 minutes tonight. And then also, if you come to one of our events, and we'll talk about that at the end, you get a month as a gold member as part of that camp. So take advantage of the resources that we offer. That online class is a must. You really have to read it. After you've created that profile and you're being proactive about what you want, and again, don't get upset when she changes her mind. Next step, getting the word out. So now we're talking about our marketing plan, and video in this day and age is such a huge part of that because these are softball coaches. They get thousands of emails. Dear coach, here's my schedule. Please come and see me. You know what? That's not special anymore. It's not. But you put a link to a video in that email and the coach clicks on it, and getting good video, meaning not bouncy, high quality HD, showing them what they want to see. And we're going to cover this a little bit more. I'm getting ahead of myself. But personalize that email to the coach with video because these are softball coaches. And what's going to bring them to your game with 160 teams and make them come to watch you is that they like you as a softball player. And then if they don't like you as a softball player, then that's okay. That's information. You might not like it, but that's good information. If a coach doesn't like your pitching style, then that's not the right college for you. And you need to get over it and move on to the next school. So good video can definitely help your chances of getting noticed by a college, and a bad video can hurt your chances. I mean, I've seen some bad video where, the kid was actually very good, but the video's bouncy. They didn't show the right things. In this day and age, time is precious to a college coach. If you don't catch their attention in the first 30 seconds, they're shutting it off. With Fastpitch Online Showcase, we have all these analytics, and we can watch when a college coach watches it to see how long they're engaged in the video. If they don't see something they like in the first 30 seconds, they're shutting it off and moving to the next one. So video is not necessarily to get a scholarship with. The video is to help bring the college coach to your game when you're spending your money to go to these showcase tournaments so that the coach comes to your game to see your daughter because that coach saw something they liked and they're going to come to watch her. That way, if they come to that game and she gets walked and she gets hit, they'll come back to watch her again. That's what you want. Coaches use video. There's so many kids out there, they use that video to help weed out the ones they're not interested in. So you want good video. It's like a good commercial. You can have a great product, but if you have a stinky commercial, you're not going to get the clients. So you have to look at that video as part of that marketing campaign and getting good video. And it's not just good video. It's not just the HD quality. I mean, obviously I've seen some crummy video because, mom and dad didn't use a tripod and it's bouncing all over the place. That's not just the main piece of it. It's, do you show the coaches what they want to see in the first 30 seconds? Can I tell you how many videos I saw where the kids started off sacrifice bunting for like 45 seconds and it's just painful to watch? I never gave a scholarship to a kid because they were a good sacrifice bunter. It is not something that's going to grab a college coach's attention. It should not be in the first part of your video. And I see well-meaning people who get videos done by somebody who does weddings, and the production value might be great. They've all got all these special effects and picture-in-picture, but they don't know what a softball coach wants to see. It might be great movie quality, but it's not going to catch a softball coach's attention because they use this great transition. So you need video that's going to catch a college coach's attention. So, and again, when we get to the end of this, we're going to bring up some questions, but my job here tonight is to get you start asking yourselves as a family the right questions and start pointing you in the right direction. Because as we said, each journey will be different. Each player is going to be different. So seek out good information and be, skeptical about when people give you information, because that might have been, for that one person, that's the way it was. It might not mean your daughter's that person. So seek out good information. Travel ball coaches have been out there for a while, have a wealth of information. Have a plan. Don't wait for coaches to come to you. Don't get hung up on full softball scholarships because they're few and far between. Other pieces of information to talk to you about. If the young ladies are listening to you, number one, the easiest way to turn off a college coach, and they do these polls all the time, the NFCA, and I will tell you from my experience, it was absolutely the case. The quickest way to turn a college coach off, because I used to walk out to these tournaments with a list of players, and there were 20 kids who were about the same skill level, in my opinion, at least at a position. What turned me off was if a kid had a bad attitude. She didn't hustle. Because if I have to motivate you in order to do something, I don't want to be spending my time motivating you. Another thing, I mean, I can tell you, I could think of a number of instances where I was standing online in a concession stand. And remember, you're wearing a uniform and you have your number on it. And I saw a kid that I was recruiting treat their parents poorly. And I told you, I will tell you, I marked them right off my list because here's my theory. If that's the way you treat your parents who are, basically financing this gravy train this summer, how are you going to treat me? So, a poor attitude, just being disrespectful to your coaches or your parents, not hustling. If you didn't hustle, I didn't want you. I don't want a kid I have to motivate. I've got enough problems on my hands with other things that, come up later on. I don't want to take a known problem I'm going to have to motivate. No kid is good enough for that. So, hopefully that hits home with a lot of the young players, that is the easiest way to get yourself off a college coach's list. So with Fastpitch Online Showcase, not only, we're different because we are all about the education and teaching you what you need to know in your situation. What's your daughter about and when does she need to do this and how does she need to do it? The second thing, we are one of the biggest proponents of video, and all of our events have video. We send out what we call a virtual showcase to 2,000 college coaches after each event that we run in terms of our recruiting camps, and college coaches watch them. In this day and age, we can see who opens our emails. We know college coaches are watching this video. So even if they weren't live at the event, it's being sent to coaches all over the country, and it's a great use of their time. So we use video not only as a group, but you can purchase your own skills video where infielders are taking ground balls, outfielders are taking fly balls, you're hitting. It's a bare bones video. It's a cost effective video, and you can get it as part of the event as an add-on. So it's a great way for you, especially the younger players. We really strongly encourage the 8th and 9th graders to do our recruiting camps because it gives them, in an inexpensive way, a great video to use if they really are interested in saying, hey, I don't know, maybe I do want to go to University of Florida, then get the video and send it out early. It's a great way at an inexpensive price point to get a video. And I'm showing you a bunch of our video dates coming up. We've got the full-length skills videos being done in Connecticut on May 10th. And then all of our recruiting camps all over the country always include video. And we have a new one coming up in Maryland we're really excited about. First time we're in that area. But we're teaching you what you need to know. You might not know the questions. And this is the way one parent, when I first developed this company and I had, parents who had gone through the process read through my materials, they said, Kim, you're answering questions these parents don't even know they have. And that's what we're about. We're about educating you about your situation. And we're different because we're only about softball. Our recruiting advice and our calendars are specifically about softball, not about every sport under the sun. We're softball people who just do softball, and that's where our expertise lie. And we affiliate with some of the top tournaments in the country, with elite showcases in Texas, with MSP out in Kansas, and then again with USSSA down in Maryland, USA Elite Training up in the Northeast. We work with teams Gold Coast Hurricanes, Sunrise Thunder, Diamond Dusters down in Florida. We work through the Northeast with different programs, a Blue Chip up in New York. So we're working with the top tournaments. And you know why we work with the top tournaments? Because they get it. They know what needs to be done, and they see what we're providing. So this was just the tip of the iceberg tonight. This was just, the first step. because each one of you is going to have to look at this individually as a family with your daughter, and it's going to change as she matures through the process. So if you have specific questions, especially if you're gold members with FPOS, you have a great consulting resource with us to ask questions, because you know what, every situation is going to be different. And I mean, I'm thinking to myself of all the people I've talked to about, wanting the advice, because parents, you just want your daughter to be happy. And you've spent all this time, she's been playing softball since she was 8. And you want this college experience to be the best experience possible. So you do your due diligence, you ask the right questions, and you make the best decision with the given information. That's the best you can do. The worst case scenario is these situations where I get these kids who are starting their senior year and they've got nothing and they're in panic mode. You don't want to be that. It's better to start learning about this process early and then deciding, well, you know what? She doesn't want to go to University of Florida. And frankly, she's not that talented. So, we don't need this now. But you know what? Sometimes it's good for them to start this. I encourage a lot of our younger players, who are some of our better players, to start doing the recruiting camps early. Why? Because it's hard and it's about performing. And a lot of these times, these kids do it the first time and they're tense, they're nervous, and they don't perform well. But the second time, they look like a different person. Because why? They know what to expect. It's the second time they've been in front of coaches. It's very intimidating at these recruiting camps when you got these college coaches sitting there in chairs staring you down. If you've never had that kind of experience before, the first time it's unnerving. But the second time it's easier. So, you know what? When they do them young, by the time they really need it, they're experts in it. They're experienced. So don't be afraid to do a recruiting camp young. It's a great experience for them, so that it can start conversations as a family, and it'll serve her well when the time comes when she definitely does need it. So in a moment, I'm going to open up our question and answer period. But I hope this has been helpful. Now, any of you who got in late, I saw there was a bunch of people, and I know this, sometimes you have to download software for this. If you came in late,